Today I'm making this beautiful and delicious loaf of egg bread. This makes fantastic, soft and fluffy sandwich bread. I'm going to use my bread machine dough cycle today, but I'll also leave directions on how you can make this beautiful loaf using a stand mixer if you'd rather do that. Welcome y'all to Robin on the Farm. Today I'm making a really easy bread machine recipe. This is bread machine egg bread. It's really good. I'm making this today for my family, so I figured I'd just go ahead and bring y'all along and show you exactly how I make it. This is one of our favorites, and I've been making this for a long time. So let's just get started on the recipe. I'll show you exactly how I make it. I'm going to use my bread machine today, and I'm going to use the dough cycle, but you can just as easily let this bread machine totally make it for you. I'm going to get started with 3/4 of a cup of milk. I always use whole milk, but you can also use skim milk, 1%, 2%, or any kind of milk alternative. It'll work just fine in this recipe. So 3/4 of a cup of milk. This is warm milk. I just popped this in the microwave for 1 minute and let it heat up. So it should be about 100 to 110 degrees. After the milk, then we're gonna add 2 eggs. This is egg bread, so 2 eggs. Just gonna put that right on in there. After the eggs, then we want some butter. This is a 1/4 cup of melted butter. This is my cast iron melting pot. I put a 1/4 cup of butter in here. I put it on the stove and it melted really quick and easily. So I like this little melting pot. It is probably my most used cast iron piece. So a 1/4 cup of melted butter right on into your bread machine loaf pan. And next I'm going to use some sugar. I'm going to use a 1/4 cup of this white sugar, but you can also use maple syrup, honey, brown sugar, or you can even lessen the amount of sugar that this has in it, but it makes it really good, and it's not a sweet bread at all. Now it's time for the flour. I'm going to use 3 cups of bread flour. You can also use all-purpose flour, but I like bread flour a little bit better. So today I'm going to use bread flour. I'm just going to measure it right on into my bread machine loaf pan, so 3 cups. I like to store my flour in these big food grade buckets, and then I like to seal them up with this gamma lid. These are great little twist-on gamma lids, and this just keeps it nice and fresh in my pantry. Nothing's going to get into this big bucket if I have that gamma lid on. Okay, so 3 cups of flour. Now, I like to buy my flour in bulk. I buy it in big 25-pound bags. I get it from a local mill, but I also buy it from Azure Standard. They're great. But if you buy a 25-pound bag, it fits exactly perfectly into this 5-gallon bucket. So that is a great thing to do. It's kind of a nice way to store your flour. All right, I have 3 cups of bread flour right on into my bread machine loaf pan. After the flour, we want some salt. So I'm gonna use 1.5 teaspoons of salt. This is my salt of choice. I love this Redmond's Real Salt. It's a fine ancient sea salt from North America, but you can use any salt that you want. But definitely pour it not over your bread machine loaf pan, or you might over pour your salt. So 1.5 teaspoons right on in on top of your flour. And after our salt, then it's already time for the last ingredient, which is yeast. This is my Saf Instant yeast. I really like this yeast. I also use Red Star Active Dry Yeast. You can use instant yeast or active dry yeast in this recipe, just exactly the same. It'll turn out great either way. But I want 1 teaspoon of yeast right on into my bread machine loaf pan. And those are all of the ingredients. This is such a quick, fast, easy bread machine recipe. Now that all 7 of my ingredients are in my loaf pan, I'm gonna go ahead and put this into my bread machine. This is my Zojarashi Home Bakery Supreme. Love this bread machine. It's got the double paddles. It's nice and quiet, has a nice strong motor. I've made so many loaves of bread in this and it's still going strong. Okay, I'm gonna use the dough cycle. So I'm gonna select the dough cycle, press start, and it starts kneading. Now, if you don't want to use the dough cycle and you just want your bread machine to do it all, just choose a basic white cycle. This is a 1.5 pound loaf, but down in the printable recipe that you can find down in the description, I'll also leave the recipes for a 1 pound loaf size and a 2 pound loaf, in addition to this 1.5 size. Now, I measured in cups and spoons, but I'll also leave you the recipe in grams if you like that better. So in just a couple minutes, I'm gonna check on my ball of dough. I'm gonna let this go for about 4 or 5 minutes and then check on it. Make sure it's not too wet, not too dry, and I'll show you exactly what this should look like. It's been 5 minutes and it's time to check on my ball of dough. Oh, this looks so good. can tell it's a nice rich dough because of the milk and the eggs and the butter, and it's just a really pretty color. It looks really nice and soft and rich. Okay, mine looks tacky, not too sticky. It's not too wet because it's not sticking to the sides of my loaf pan. This is exactly what I want it to look like. If it was too dry, it would look a little bit crumbly and not coming together into this nice smooth ball of dough. So mine looks good. If yours is looking a little bit too wet, then go ahead and add about 1/8 cup more flour, let it knead up, and try to get it to look like this. If it's really, really crumbly, that means it's too dry. You don't want to add about 1 tablespoon more of milk or water. Let it mix up and try to get it to look like this. All right, I'm gonna let this go. The dough cycle is about 1.5 hours long. After the dough cycle is complete, this dough will have risen and it'll be ready to punch down, shape into a loaf, let rise again, and then bake in the oven. I'll show it to you when this dough cycle is done. It's been 1.5 hours and the dough cycle is complete. Time to turn out this dough and get it in the loaf pan. Here is the dough to our egg bread. Look how good it looks. Such a pretty rich color. Now I'm just gonna go ahead and turn it out from my bread machine loaf pan. And since I used the dough cycle, I'm gonna bake this loaf of bread in the oven. So I'm just gonna press it out just like this, get all those air bubbles out of it, press it out really well. Now it's time to roll it up. I like to press out my dough about as wide as my loaf pan is long. Today I'm gonna use one of my cast iron loaf pans. This is an 8.5 by 4.5 inch cast iron loaf pan. I oiled it up really well. I poured about 1 tablespoon of olive oil in my cast iron loaf pans and just rub it all over it, bottom, sides, corners, and then your bread won't stick at all. Okay, now I'm just gonna roll this up into a really simple log or loaf. Just wanna roll it up kind of tight. And then I like to flip it over, press those seams together, get those corners all pressed together. Oh, this dough feels absolutely fantastic. I can tell that it's gonna be a nice light loaf of bread. It's gonna be soft and squishy and so good. Okay, this looks good. Now, I'm just gonna throw it into my loaf pan, just like that. And I'm gonna let this rise in the loaf pan for about 30 minutes. For you, it could take anywhere from 20 minutes to an hour, just depending on your climate, your altitude, the temperature in your home. But I'll show this to you exactly what it should look like when it's done rising. I'm just looking for it to just peek over the edge of the bread loaf pan, and I'll show it to you then. The dough from my egg bread has been rising in the loaf pan for about 30 minutes. Do you see how it's peeking up over the edge of the bread loaf pan? That lets me know it's time to put it in the oven. I have my oven preheated to 350 degrees, and I'm gonna let this bake for about 30 minutes. I'll show it to you when it's all ready. My bread machine egg bread that I used the dough cycle of my bread machine to make is fresh out of the oven. Look how gorgeous this loaf of bread is. What a beautiful color. Now I like to turn my bread out of the loaf pan immediately after getting it out of the oven, just so it doesn't get soggy or anything like that sitting in the loaf pan very long. Look at this gorgeous loaf of bread. I am excited about this one. It is so pretty. Okay, this is what I like to do. I got my cast iron melting pot. I melted a little bit of butter in it, and now I like to just rub this butter all over the top of my crust. This will just give me a really nice soft crust, and it'll give you that good buttery flavor, and it looks really pretty and shiny. So that looks great. You can go all the way around it if you want to, whatever you want to do, or you don't even have to brush it with butter, but I definitely like to do that. Now you can let your bread cool on a wire rack if you'd like to, but I like to just cover my loaf of bread with a tea towel and let it cool like this. I like to wrap it up, and all that warmth and condensation will give me an even softer, better crust. I really like that. So I'm gonna let this cool just for a little bit. If you can stand to let your bread cool, you're gonna get a better texture, crumb, all of that. But it's really nice to eat nice warm bread too, so I understand that. But I'm gonna let this cool off for a little bit, and then I'll slice into it and I'll show you the inside. I am ready to cut into this beautiful egg bread. I have to say, this is probably the prettiest loaf I've made in a while, and it smells so good too. Let's go ahead and cut into it and check it out. I'm using my bread bow knife. These are great for not squishing your bread. Oh my goodness. Pretty, really pretty. Oh my goodness, it is nice and light and fluffy and soft, and it feels so good. I wish y'all could have this in your house right now so that you could smell it, you could feel it, and that you could taste it. I'm gonna take a little bite of this. It is so good. This is such a good, rich loaf of bread. The eggs, the milk, the butter, they really contribute to a really fantastic loaf of bread. Now I have to admit, I rushed into slicing into this bread. It's dinner time and we are ready to eat this bread with dinner. So if you wait a little bit longer to let your bread cool better than I did, you're gonna get a better texture and crumb than I got. But this is such a fantastic loaf of bread. It's rich, it's soft, it's fluffy, and it is absolutely delicious. Give this one a try. I'm trying to be a little bit healthier and use less plastics on my foods. And these beeswax bread bags are awesome for keeping your bread fresh. These are some of the beeswax bread bags that my daughters and I make together, and we have these on our website. We have lots of cute patterns, lots more than this. So I will leave the recipe for this bread machine egg bread down in the description, plus the link to these bread bags. I've shared lots of my family's favorite tried and true bread machine recipes on here, so if you're looking for more bread machine recipes, be sure to check those out. Let me know if you make this egg bread and what you think of it. Thanks so much for being here with me on Robin on the Farm. I'll see you next time.
Robin's in the kitchen, dough beneath her hands, wheat from the fields and eggs from her land. Sunlight through the window, a warm golden glow. She's working hard to make that dough. With flour on her apron, loving each knead, ground wheat fresh, sowing her seed. The smell of fresh bread rises.